Alright, so a little bit of sharing on our school. So our school is Touchstone International Institute. Alright, it's actually a private school in Singapore. So very different from the kind of schools that Mr. Gan has shared with all of you in the last 2 days. Alright, as a private school, we are not exactly under the Ministry of Education, alright, but rather we are regulated by the Council for Private Education in Singapore. Okay, what is a private school and how is it different from a government school then? A government school basically has to follow policies that has been set by the ministry. Okay, it has to follow a national curriculum, all right, that is also directed by the Ministry of Education. But as a private school, the main aim is actually to offer alternative education pathway for people who, or for students and learners who may not agree, all right, or who may not find the government education system, suitable for them. All right, so for our school, okay, we looked into providing alternative education pathway for not just international students, but for local students aging between 6 to working adults. All right. In fact, just next door to us, a mummy from China is learning English right at this moment. So the range of our students in terms of their background, in terms of their age group, is actually very wide. All right. So that is a challenge. All right. That we are very happy to take on, and that's because we have a lot of faith, all right, in the private education in Singapore, all right. Although all the private schools in Singapore are not under the Ministry of Education, they are under CPE, Council for Private Education. So what is this CPE all about? They are actually a statutory board, all right. So they are not private. They are not like some organization that spring up on its own, all right. But rather they are a planned organization that is sanctioned by the government, all right, to look into regulating practices, processes, all right, even like fees collection and students' benefit, all right, in the private education sector. And their role is not just to police the private education schools, or rather the private schools. They also provide very strong support because as much as the Ministry of Education looks into improving national curriculum, national education system, all right, the government realized that the private education is a growing industry in Singapore. Right? Every year, tens of thousands of students from all over the world come to Singapore and sign up for different courses, all right, to further their education, to enhance their career prospects. So at the beginning, all these private schools set up, there's no government body to actually, in a way, look into how they are functioning and everything. So that it was at the beginning stage, it was actually rather unstable. All right, there was a lot of market factors that comes in. All right, where everybody's concerned with earning money, because at the end of the day, it's a private school and profit is important. So recognizing all this would pose as a problem in the long run, and that Singapore's reputation would be at stake. So that's why CPE is set up. All right, so their purpose is to ensure that even within the private education sector, there is some sort of a standard practice. There is certain maintenance of good quality education. All right, so that's why they are here. It's to actually look into how, as a organization, they could help, all right, all the private schools who function as individual organization, come together and look at how they can actually improve, right, the kind of education programs that they are offering to international students. Now, so where do we come in this whole private education industry? All right, when we first started or rather when Mr. Gan and Madam Ming, got together and they decide that okay, they want to start a private school in Singapore. The first step that we took was to actually ask ourselves, what kind of a school do we want to establish? Dreams are very important, all right, whether it's for individual or for an organization. So for us, we had a very clear vision. All right, we don't want to be like any other private school in Singapore, where okay, we get students in, we earn their money, and then we send them off. That's not what we want. All right, we wanted to be a private education institution that is well known. All right, not just in Singapore, but beyond our shores. And the reason why we think that is very important is that the more credible, the more well-known your school is, the more recognition your students will gain when they, enter the working world, trying to seek, their own future. So that's the kind of vision that we want, to become a leading education institution. We want to be known as, a school that can produce top quality students. All right. So with that vision in mind, how do we achieve it? So we have a mission, right? Just like playing games. All right. So the mission is that this is what we want. How do we get there? But in order for us to get there, then we must make sure that every single student that leaves here, all right, whether they meet another person on the street or we send them for some competition, all right, to represent the school, they are able to impress, the audience that they are, speaking to. And in order for us to do that, then we have to look at every individual student and ask ourselves as educator, what is their potential? How far can they go? All right, and our job is then to help them attain their potential. So there you go, our mission, to provide the kind of support, all right, the kind of education that they need to maximize their potential, all right, wherever it might lead them, but at least we know, all right, that they will excel in that area. All right, so having our mission and vision clearly stated, all right, and having formulated it, okay, we move on to look at the kind of people that makes up this organization. An organization, is a lifeless, structure. So what gives it life is the people, all right. And we started thinking we have to have a team, all right. We need to get people in. But what kind of people do we want? What are the kind of quality, personality traits that we want from them? So we decided that there are certain core values, all right, that we want to see in people that we are, taking in. So we want to see people with passion, all right, on the individual level, on, for students, we want to see that they are passionate about, striving for a better future for themselves. For, the teachers, for the staff, we want to see that they have the passion, they share the same passion as us when it comes to education. They don't see it just as a job, but they see the very noble side of their job, that they are actually, helping other people, to get, better and to seek for a brighter future. So passion was very important. And then in order to drive that passion, they must also, have that, passion to serve people. So service was another value that we're looking for. And all these things, okay, at the end of the day is because they want to achieve excellence in their own area. Yep. So these are the core values that we push for, from our student to our admin staff, to the teachers, and to the directors of the school. All right. I'm not sure, but over the course of these 2 days with Mr. Gan's sharing, I think there's one word or keyword that is pretty emphasized, which is this word transparency. Yeah, because we highlighted how transparency is important in order for people to accept policy changes, to accept strict rules, all right, to accept certain conditions that they have to fulfill. And in order for transparency to be established, all right, we need a proper culture within the school. So we came up with this culture statement where we want to maintain a culture of openness and sharing, all right. So all these things, I was here while you guys were asking him certain questions like, how do you handle students who are influenced by peer pressure? How do you convince your student that caning is something that's acceptable and things like this? So this is where openness and sharing comes in very importantly. All right. So whether it's a 6-year-old boy who comes to me and say, why am I being punished for this? To an adult, who comes to me and asks, why am I being penalized for certain things? There's always this sharing part about our rationale for taking certain actions. There's a lot of openness. We encourage students. We're not encouraging intrusion of privacy, but we are actually encouraging our students to be willing to share and be open about, the kind of problems that they might have. Here, the teachers and the student know each other by their first name, they meet each other along the corridor and they talk like friends. And I think it's a very cozy kind of feeling, because it makes everybody crave to come to school, because it's like your second home, right? And the only reason why they can do that is because they know I can tell anyone here anything I'm comfortable with and know that I won't be judged. Yeah. So on the work level, this is also very important, because when you have openness and when colleagues are willing to share, all right, you find that you progress faster. So here the teachers do not have to worry that another colleague will steal their ideas for a lesson or will take their worksheet and not share the credit and all. The teachers work together, if there's a project, everybody's on it, and the credit is shared by everybody. So this is the kind of culture that we are hoping to sustain here in TSI. All right. Okay, now moving on. All these dreams and all this culture that we want, in a way may sound very airy-fairy. So we need certain structure to make sure that it's in place. So our philosophy and approach is one, which is, as you can see, all right, circled by our culture of openness and sharing, supported by our values and beliefs, all right. And there's this thing that I really value here as a staff, which is this thing called top-down support and ground-up initiative. All right, this actually creates a very healthy kind of work environment where any staff, all right, regardless of their position in the school, can go up to Mr. Gan or Madam Min and propose an initiative that will, benefit the school. All right. And the school never, so far, the school never comes down and say, no, this is not possible. It's always the conversation always starts with, let's talk about it. And we sort it out. And then we discuss where are the limitations and where are the parts where different players can provide the support that's needed to push a certain initiative through. All right. And this kind of culture and this kind of top-down support, ground-up initiative is not just something for administrative purposes, it's also being implemented in the classroom. Remember Mr. Gan was sharing about how in the classroom the students participate in group settings and they talk to teachers, and then the students are given roles, and the teacher is not the only one with the loudest voice in the classroom. Yeah. So that kind of classroom environment is actually also encouraged here. Where we have our younger children that you will meet later coming to us and asking, why don't we have this in the classroom? Why is it that this is not present? To a lot of adults it would sound like, oh, these kids are always complaining. They're so unappreciative. But actually, from their perspective, they're actually just trying to look into ways where everybody can enjoy the environment more. So this makes very good learning opportunities for everyone, where the teacher educates the child on how to bring up all these things in a less offensive way, right? While the child learns to have the courage and confidence to bring up new ideas, not worrying that their ideas, there's no point bringing it up because the adults is going to say no. So this is the kind of culture that I really enjoy while I'm in this school. Because I've been to many schools. I've been in government school, from primary level all the way to junior college level. I've been in private schools, right, a few of them, and I can say that this is something that is somehow very difficult to balance. But here, maybe because we are starting fresh and we are starting new, it's something that we have put in place. So that's something that is very important for this whole philosophy to work. Yeah. Now, as you can see, the learners are in the center because they are our core business. All right. No learners, no business. Unhappy learners, no business. All right, so we are still, needing profit in order to sustain. So having learners and having people who want to come to us is very important. So that's why they are always in the center of our focus and in the center of any of our policies. So in order for us to provide them with the best support, we have to have the teachers. So I'm sure you have seen some of these teachers walking around. All right, later during lunch, you can get to speak to some of them. So who are the kind of people that we engage as teachers? Now, our teachers are all actually ex-MOE trained teachers. That means they have actually taught in government school, gone through proper training. All right. Not only that, you will see that our teachers, okay, like myself, I have about 16 years of teaching experience. All right. So I'm considered one of the old birds. Yeah, I don't like to call myself that, but yeah. All right. So yeah, but the teachers here range, I mean, in terms of working experience, between 20 for our most experienced teacher to about 2 years. All right. So why is there, this kind of mix, and why is it that we don't just pick teachers who are all very experienced? Well, the reason is because the more experience a teacher gets, the more rigid they may become, including myself. All right? Yeah, it's true. Where I have a good method, it worked for the past 10 years, it will probably continue to work for the next 20 years. That's the kind of mindset. So in order for us to ensure that when it comes to providing quality education, we don't remain stagnant, all right, there is a need for a balance. You need the experienced teachers who are there to, for example, pass on good practices, processes, time management, student management skill, all right? But you need the young teachers, the newbies, to come in and shake things up a little, introduce us to new technology, for example. Like, what? Snapchat? I don't know anything about it, but I have teachers who know it and then use it with the students to help them with their English. Yeah, Snapchat. All right, Twitter, I know nothing about it, but I have teachers who use it to remind students about homework to be handed in, to provide students with a very online, all right, live kind of work support. I mean, in terms of doing homework, all right. So this kind of balance, all right, makes it a very interesting team, all right, for my academic department. Okay, so when it comes to then the leadership, all right, Mr. Gan, who's our principal, very experienced, all right, and I think I'm very fortunate to have known him because through him I expanded my network. I am no longer that frog in the well. Okay, I'm now this frog that's hopping all around. Yeah. All right, knowing people from South Africa, all right, because if it wasn't him and his contact, I don't think I would have ever met you guys. I'm going to Thailand for training, I've been to Indonesia to do teacher training, and all this is only possible because of the kind of support and the kind of experience that he has, all right. The best part about here is, despite the experience that my leaders have, they are very open to new ideas. And so overall, the culture is very much supported because everybody has that openness to accept new things. Yeah. All right. I'm going to move on to the more important things. Yeah? All right. Okay. So what kind of courses do we offer here and who do we take? All right. We offer a total of 17 courses, all right, that is registered with the CPE, the Council for Private Education. And these courses cater to students from different age group and different background with different aims. Okay, the first group of students that we looked at, which is basically now our core group of students, are students between the age of 7 to 15. Now they come from different countries. All right, from China, from Vietnam, Thailand, Korea, we had Japanese students and all. And they come to Singapore with only one aim in mind. Their main aim is to try to get into the government schools in Singapore. All right, so this courses, the preparatory course for admission to government school, all right, looks into helping this international student gain successful admission into mainstream schools in Singapore. The only issue is, in order to get into the mainstream school, they need to clear a hurdle. And this hurdle is set up by the Ministry of Education because they have to ensure that there are certain standards and competency level that is met by these students. So all these students are required to sit for this particular examination known as the Admission Exercise for International Student, the AEIS assessment. and it's only done by the Ministry of Education. All right. Maybe I want to ask, what do you think that it's fair that the Ministry of Education sets an exam like this for all the students? Should the school have the autonomy to just pick the kind of students they want? What do you guys think? In South Africa, government school, can anybody just go to any school and say, I want to join the school? Yes? Oh, wow, okay. Here, no, all right, no. It has to be top down. Only with an MOE approval, all right, an offer letter, can you go to a government school and say, I would like to study in your school. So it's very different, all right, okay, and there's actually reasons behind this, okay. Actually, about 15 years ago, all right, 15 years ago, any international student who flies to Singapore, who have evidence of having some sort of education back in their own home country, can go to any government school and say, I want to come to your school. And all they have to do is to convince that school and the principal of the school that they meet certain requirement. And the requirement is normally just a very simple entry examination for English and mathematics. All right, that was about 15 years ago. Okay, sounds perfect, right? The school is given the freedom to choose, the students who are eager to join get to do that. Problem comes when that happens, because there's a lot of freedom. And what happened is, across different schools, all right, the kind of entrance exam that they are giving to these international students are not standardized. All right, so there's no standard. So like, for example, this student may be able to enter this school at primary 3, when actually in another school, all right, this student would be deemed maybe a primary 2 student. All right, so these are problems when they get to the national exam level. All right, because then the system will somehow sieve them out. All right, so over the years, all right, a decade back, there were complaints then from both schools and also from parents of this international student about how at the end they were put on a wild goose chase. Okay, after 6 years of primary school education, then they realized their child is actually not suitable to get promoted into a secondary school in Singapore. So there was a lot of dashed dreams, right? There was a lot of false hopes that was given. So in view of all these things, MOE realized that there's a need to standardize, all right? Because without this standardization, all right, the job of the teachers and the school becomes very difficult, because the pool of learners they get at different levels will be so diverse that there would be that it would be very ineffective in the classroom when it comes to ensuring every child is not left behind. All right, so the standardized test was set. Okay, when it was first introduced, still everybody was very happy about it. Okay, a lot of students came. All right. And they prepped for this exam. And that's when the private schools were very happy, all right, because then, I can start a new course to help this student prepare for all this examination. Okay, 10 years back, very easy. The exam papers are released to the students. So year in, year out, the kind of questions that's being set, the level of difficulty of the question is known to the test takers. So what all this private school does is then drill them in similar kind of question, all right? And many of these students, all right, they come, they spend 3 months here and they learn. Why do I have this learn? Because they are not really learning, they are memorizing. They memorize composition, they memorize grammar answers, they memorize math problem sums and how to solve it. Yeah, so especially students from China with super good memories, they can basically memorize 200-300 words in a day without knowing the meaning though. They only know when, they can only use keywords to roughly know when to use them. So at the end of the day, they do very well for the exam, they get into the school, but still they cannot survive in the system because it was a false representation of their true ability. So 5 years ago, ministry thumbed down on the whole thing. All right, no more one-to-one approaching of the schools. All right, because there were complaints about it. No more release of the test papers or the test result. So everything become very restricted. All right. So now today, when we prep students for this exam, it's actually an uphill task because number one, we only know how they're going to be tested. That means the test items. You know that they're going to have 34 multiple choice questions. You know that they're going to be tested in grammar and vocabulary. You know that there will be comprehension passages, and that was about it. Alright, you really do not know how difficult the question is at the different level. Alright, so that's number one. Number two, students who sit for this exam, at the end of the day, they do not even get a test score. So I sent 2 students there. Alright, in my school, one is the best and one is the lousiest. I send them both to take the exam. Alright, both can also be rejected. Alright, so it makes it very difficult for us as a school to then understand, you know, where is the benchmarking being done. Alright, so that's why today, alright, for a lot of schools that offer prep course for these courses, they look at not just teaching the student to a certain level, we go beyond. So for example, one of my students going to sit for a primary 2 examination, we actually prep them all the way to primary 3 syllabus, just to make sure that they clear. And the reason why is because the clearance rate is actually very low. Out of about 4,000 students who sit for this exam, only about 600 get offered a place in the government school. Yeah, so that's how tough it is. Yeah. So this assessment becomes something that a lot of these international students get very worried about, especially their parents. So a lot of them are very willing to then send them for prep courses because it is necessary. Yeah. Okay. Now for this test itself, right? They're only tested on English and math. All right. But it's enough to stress a lot of them out. Yeah. That's all I can say. Okay. Now. Okay, one of the things about this exam is that they are actually registered for the test based on purely their age. Alright, so when they come in as an 8-year-old, they will sit for this level of examination. And everybody is very smart. Why? They sit for this examination which caters to 2 levels, the primary 2 and the primary 3 level, so that you would know how many percent of it is primary 2 work, how many percent of it is primary 3 work, number one. So the first obstacle. Second obstacle is this. An 8-year-old child sitting for this primary 2, primary 3 exam, alright, okay, is offered a school. Alright, it doesn't mean that this child will get to be offered a school of his or her choice. Everything is decided by the ministry. And what do they look for? They look for the child's performance in the assessment. Alright? An 8-year-old under our normal system. Drink, sir? Yeah. An 8-year-old child, alright, under our normal system is supposed to be a primary 3 student. Alright, a primary 3 student. Okay? But an 8-year-old international student can come into our system and they may actually be asked to start as low as primary 1, okay, depending on their test performance. Okay, but so they may be actually asked to actually go back 2 years, right, instead of starting at the year of where they are supposed to be compared to the local student. So these are all the catch that's in place for this AIS examination. All right. So for those students, like I mentioned, who don't get a place in the government school, they stay in the international school, all right, some place like our school here. And different international school offers them different kind of option. There are schools here that offer IGCSE, all right. There are schools here that offers Excel, all right. There are schools here that offers the Australian Matriculation assessment. So there are all kinds of different examinations that they can actually put the students on, okay? And then there are some like us who put them on this, okay, or insist that we put them on this, all right, because we know that in terms of recognition, this is stronger, all right? So for this Singapore-Cambridge GCE O-level examination, all right, what is the requirement? Okay, the students are actually required to take only 5 subjects. All right, only 5 subjects to gain entry into tertiary education in Singapore. All right, the polytechnics, the universities, the private universities, and also our national universities. All right, so these 5 subjects would have to have two of the core subjects, which is English language and mathematics. Then they get to pick, all right, the remaining 3 elective subjects from this list over here. Okay. You may look at this list and wonder, that's very little subjects to pick from. Yeah. But actually, if you go to the Ministry of Education website, there are a lot of subjects that is available for them, all right? Chinese language, for example, Thai as a third language, Chinese as a first language. They have humanities courses like history, geography. So all those subjects are actually available. So why is it that when you look at this, you only see this? This is because these are the subjects that's offered here at Touchstone, all right? Now, we don't offer a variety of subjects at this beginning stage because it's not practical, all right? We don't have that many students to support, classes for that many subjects, where, it doesn't make sense to have just a class for one student. So that's why we restrict the subjects that's available for choice, all right? And then why this subject? Because this subject's combination allows them to actually get into tertiary courses that's available in Singapore at the different polytechnics. Because when they actually try to apply for tertiary education in Singapore, there is actually certain subjects requirement in terms of combination. English is a must, math is a must, and they must have 1 sciences. All right. So because of that, all right, as you can see from this list, we focus a lot then on the math and science modules available. All right. We didn't offer any humanities subject purely because of the nature of our students. Most of them are not strong in English. So, asking them to write history essay or geography essay would not be advantageous for them. All right. So instead, we focus on very practical subject modules like Principle of Accounting, which would then allow them to move on to accountancy in the future. All right. Now, other than that, after the O-level, some students may sit for this advanced level examination. All right. It's a little bit like, sitting for an SAT exam, all right, where with the result for this A-level examination, they can then apply straight to universities, all right, no requirement to actually supplement the application with any other additional documents, all right. And as you can see, the subjects covered are also very similar, very, very prone towards the math and the sciences, because these are subjects that are very manageable. All right. To put it bluntly, they are subjects that require less eloquence of the language. Right. They are more clear-cut. They can be prepped more easily. So that's the reason why they have been chosen. Okay. Other than preparing students in the academic path, we also have courses that help students to brush up their English. So we have prep course in IELTS, which is the International English Testing System. This one actually allows people to use the result to apply or supplement, all right, their application for migration or for studies in English-speaking country. Yeah. Then we also provide this particular course, which I don't think y'all would have heard about. It's actually a preparatory course for 汉语水平考试. All right, sounds like I'm speaking alien language, right? It's actually Chinese. 汉语水平考试 is actually an examination that is administered by 汉办, okay, which is a Chinese government set up organization, all right, looking into Chinese language testing. They are the only organization in the whole entire world, all right, that do international Chinese language benchmarking, okay? You'll be surprised, this examination is not just taken by non-Chinese, non-Chinese speakers. It's actually taken by Chinese speakers too, all right? I just went for a testing actually for their highest level, all right, in order to qualify to be a teacher for this language, yeah. So the test is actually to benchmark your Chinese language ability for different purposes. All right. The test is actually differentiated into 6 different levels, 1 to 6, with 1 meant for people who have never spoken Chinese before. Okay. And this test actually is very popular in Singapore today. And if you go to the test centers, you see candidates of different age group, from young children, all right, to working adults, from French that I met there to Americans, and our own students who are British Indians, all right, okay, went to take the test. And why do they take all these tests? Because the test itself is a requirement when they want to actually apply for certain courses. Okay, my students, okay, the three that you see here, they're actually from Britain, all right, they are studying in international school in Singapore. And for their summer holiday, they want to go back to UK to take some courses. And interestingly, one of the courses that they are taking requires them to have the HSK test result. Yeah. So very interesting, and it's a very big thing in Singapore at the moment. Yeah. Okay. All right. So generally, what is the learning experience like for our average student here? We ensure that the teachers are qualified enough to provide them with the academic help that they need. But other than that, we don't want a situation that we are having now, where I'm doing all the talking and you are doing all the listening, all right? Okay. Because we recognize that it's going to be very dull, hot, right? Yeah, dull and stifling for the students and for the teacher alike. So here we use a lot of different pedagogies, a lot of different technology to enhance our teaching. We have something that we actually pride ourselves in, all right, which is differentiated teaching, where we can have a class of students from different age group, all right, preparing for slightly different level of examination. So for example, my primary 2 students actually have classes together with my primary 3 students. Okay, you may wonder, how does that work? Aren't you disadvantaging your student, right? Because the content may be different. But actually it isn't, because of the fact that we have this differentiated teaching. So differentiated teaching basically looks at students' capability and recognizes that in any classroom, even if they are in the same level, learners are different, like our 5 fingers. On the same hand, but different lengths. Alright? So differentiated teaching allows for the teacher to go through a lesson, but during that one lesson, address the needs and the different learning ability of the students. So, for example, the 2 of you are in the same class, sorry to use it, and you are the super strong student, and you are the just slightly, less strong student, the weakest is slightly weak, right? Okay. The 2 of them have the same lesson with me. I can be talking about globalization or pollution. Alright, so I start my teaching and everything, then it's time for you guys to do your work, right? Okay, because you are stronger, you need to be challenged. So my worksheet to her, which is on pollution, will be more challenging, maybe have less guidance, but my worksheet in the same class to a weaker student on the same topic of pollution will be very different, because it may have like a word list to help her struggle with the difficult words. It may have like more tips to help them get past certain thinking process. All right. So all that happened in the same classroom, and that's what differentiated teaching is all about. All right. Okay. Why did we choose this? Because it actually means that in the classroom, nobody is left behind in that sense. Everybody is learning, but just that they are learning at their own pace. Number one. Nobody feels upset because they can't do a piece of work, because every student gets a slightly different kind of work depending on their needs. So everybody can fulfill certain tasks that's been set. Alright, so for example, I set you a math question, addition. Okay, you take 1000 plus 200. Okay, you're not so strong, maybe your question is 20 plus 40. Both of you get to clear the addition problem. Both of you feel good because you finished your work. Alright, both of you are still learning. Alright, you're not waiting for her, she's not rushing to catch up with you in that sense. Alright, so that's differentiated teaching. Alright, okay, then we have a lot of other things where we use a lot of IT. We have smart board, the students can go and, it's very interactive. They play with a lot of online apps, that is related to their learning, alright. And in our school, the students are not confined to the classroom itself. We make sure that we develop them in all areas. So holistic development becomes something that's very core to our lessons. And what does it mean when we talk about holistic development? Well, as you can see from this picture, they go for trips to museums, all right? They get to interact with people outside the classroom, all right? Learn things from them, all right? Okay. They get to care for the environment. They go for beach cleaning and everything. So we want students to not just think that, okay, I must clear my exam and that's the only thing that's important. Okay, we want them to also learn how to actually appreciate the things around them, all right? And through all these things, build up their ability to communicate with people from different backgrounds, all right? Build up their ability to work with people from different backgrounds also, all right? So all these things create what we call a TSI learning experience for all our students, okay? I'm actually almost done. Okay, before I go to my last slide, can I just ask if there's anything you want to check with me? Yeah, they're very tired, I think, because the morning, yeah.
The food is ready.
The food is ready also, yeah. Okay, so maybe I'll just end with this slide. Okay, one of my favorites, all right? It's a collection, a collage of all our students, all right, since we started, all right, from the very young ones to our adult learners. And what I like about this collage, all right, is that everybody's smiling. Okay, and that's the kind of TSI learning experience and the kind of memories that we want our students to have. Yes, sir.
I know you want to make it easy for us, but you jumped a slide I was interested in.
Oh, really? Is it
There you are.
this one?
No.
This one? Ah, okay. Well, okay. Actually, other than what I shared so far is actually what we do on a daily basis. They are our core business and our core causes. But, all right, other than that, okay, there is actually a strong need, all right, that's been expressed by many parents about how can they help their child in their learning. How can they, ensure that their child do not stop talking to them as they get older. So we do conduct a lot of workshops for parents and for children and then their children. As you can see from the pictures, many of this workshop does not just involve one group. You see the parents and the child and their child coming for a talk together. Now, what do we talk about in all this workshop? We share a lot of things from education system in Singapore for people who are new to Singapore. All right, we talk about strategies on how to tackle different kind of national assessment. All right, we don't just teach the child, all right, or we don't just teach the parent. We make them sit down together and understand what they have to go through, all right, to attain good results in all these national exams. All right, we introduce them to a lot of real-world learning. All right, something that we do very often, which is our iSTEM robotics program. So I'm not sure whether you are familiar with STEM. STEM actually is an acronym that stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Yeah. So what it does is actually through this STEM incorporation with our robotics program, we actually touch on science topics. We touch on skills that they need for math. For example, when you do math, I'm sure you need to go through problems where you need to plot a graph. Right? You need to draw a table, you need to write down certain coordinates, right? You do statistics in math, right? Count probability, look for the mean score, and you need to create charts to help you, visual, tools to help you do that. So all these things have to be taught to the child, all right? But if you do it in a classroom setting, out of 10 child, maybe half of them will be like, oh yeah, so exciting stats. And then the other one will, what is this? I'm not going to use it. So with all this iSTEM program, we actually tell the children that all these skills that they are learning in class, all right, can be applied in their environment, in their daily life, all right, when they, think about, problem solving on a more, real world basis. Yeah. So these are the things or the kind of support that we provide for parents and their child. Okay, and also through a lot of this workshop, it allows the parents and a lot of these other stakeholders to understand how we deliver our curriculum in TSI and what are some of the problems that we do, like them to be involved with when it comes to helping their child learn. Yeah. Alright, okay, now maybe I'll just move on to this then, and then I'll have cleared all my slides. Alright, then we have a proper ending. Okay, now we also conduct a lot of workshops for teachers, for educators from all over the world, and in the region, right? So like this August, like I told you guys earlier, I'm going to Thailand. Super excited about it, but yeah. So we go there and we share what we do here. We share our experience. We share good practices. So some of these topics seem to be very popular among teachers. Like they want us to talk about, what Singapore education is all about. They want to learn actually how we maintain good assessment practices and processes. What are the things to put in place to ensure that every test that a child takes is useful, is informative, but at the same time fair. Alright? They want us to look into how we motivate our students. Why is it that in Singapore most of the students are so willing to learn without whining and crying? Why is it that we don't have to drag the kids to school and all? So all these motivational strategies and counseling strategies. Yeah. So yeah, that's all of my slides. Okay, so back to the picture. I like the happy picture. Yeah.